Limiting belief is a belief that holds you back from reaching your full potential. It's a thought pattern, it's a negative thinking, it's self-defeating. It can often arise from past experiences, things that we've heard, things that have been spoken over us. And a lot of times they begin to manifest in different ways, right? Self-doubt, fear of failure, a lack of confidence. And so,
hello. Welcome to another knowledge bomb episode of Lead to Greatness, where we believe in helping others reach their greatest potential and together change the world. Today on Lead to Greatness, we have Dr. Clint Ladine. If this is your first time joining us, please consider subscribing and hit that notification bell and hit that like button. This will be greatly appreciated in helping getting out this content to great leaders and great individuals like yourself. Dr. Clint's mission is to help leaders utilize coaching techniques to unleash the power of their teams, optimize their leadership skills, and drive performance to new heights. As a leadership coach and former professional basketball player, Dr. Clint knows the difference between a good coach and a bad coach. Dr. Clint is also an author of an amazing book, Power Coaching, that deals with standing out, getting unstuck, and energizing your leadership. Please help me welcome Dr. Clint with techniques and how to overcome limiting beliefs. This is Cedric Francis, and you're listening to Lead to Greatness.
I'm out here in San Francisco, California. I was with an organization and they had provided some coaching for us. I'll tell you, Cedric, at first I didn't want the coaching. I really had, part of it was I had an ego. I had been in my position for 5 years. I had my master's degree already. And I really thought, hey, what is this guy going to possibly teach me? I'd played professional basketball overseas before. So I had the discipline. I knew how to work hard. I knew how to grind. And I was like, there's nothing this guy could possibly teach me or show me. He's not in our industry. And to be honest, Cedric, I was also a little bit nervous that he might find some weaknesses as well. Like, oh, he might try to tell me what to do. Wow. But all that to say is I had this experience with coaching where it was transformative. He came in, he helped unlock some potential. He helped evoke some awareness. He helped find some blind spots. And I grew as a leader, and it transformed our organization, cascaded throughout the organization. Nice. And then I said, I have to learn more about this. I went back to school to get my doctorate in executive coaching and strategic leadership because it was so powerful in my own life.
Wow, that is so amazing. Thank you for sharing that. The way you felt at that moment when you say you don't want weaknesses to be found, is that something you thought about then or just thinking about it in hindsight? How did you come up with that?
Well, it's interesting, right? Because it was kind of a dichotomy. There was the ego. I had a lot of hubris, right? As some of the things I mentioned. But there's also, and I think it is also in all of us people that have led, there's also some deep down insecurities in some of us, right? We get underneath the hood and we're wondering, some of us have imposter syndrome. We're, worried, am I really a leader? Do people really look up to me? Am I as good as this person? We're comparing all the time. Yeah. And so a lot of that was in me as well, some ego, but also a little bit of nervousness of, oh my gosh, he might find out that I'm not that smart. And he might tell my leader, like, what are you doing having this guy here? He can't do anything. And some of those other thoughts that sometimes plague us as leaders.
Because I believe this imposter syndrome is serious, and I hear a lot of people talk about this. What's your experience with the imposter syndrome, and how do you help people that you are coaching? How do you help them through that process?
Unless you're a narcissist, most people probably suffer from this at one time or another. They think maybe they're not smart enough. Do people really believe me? What if they really knew me? What if they knew my weaknesses? And it's something that is very real in leaders. But I think a key component is when I coach leaders, or when I come, coach entrepreneurs or anybody in that vein, one of the things that is very healthy is teaching them to allow some vulnerability, because a lot of times we want to present one way, but leaders that are really effective are able to share some vulnerability, and they're able to be known. And I say this a lot. If you want to know people, you need to be known as well. And if you look at some of the good leaders, they will allow some of that vulnerability. They'll be able to share, and then it allows those that are under them to also be known. And they have the ability to also then begin to do things to connect with their coworkers, connect with leadership. They're able to take risks. They're not afraid of failure. Perfectionism begins to fall down. And so if you can get to that point where you're allow yourself to be vulnerable and not a perfectionist as a leader, you've taken a huge step forward.
What does that look like? Because that may be someone right now listening to that, but like, oh man, I'm not going to tell nobody, my deepest thoughts, like what happened to me when I was a child and things that I've been running from. What do vulnerability look like?
Yeah, it could start with something as simple as sharing a time where you failed, right, in your business. Maybe a time where you also felt insecure. So you can, let's say you're leading a sales team, right? And a lot of times sales managers will get up and they'll talk about their big fish that they caught, and the big sales number and the quotas that they hit. But those are effective and can be motivating. But what is also equally powerful is when a leader is able to share a time where they didn't get a win, when they were not successful, and then they're able to follow it up of how they managed that component in their life, the things that they did to overcome that loss, to overcome that insecurity. And when they do that, they show that vulnerability, connects with people, as we talked about, but then it also gives the people that are following a nugget of wisdom, a practical tip that they can say, okay, they also failed, but you know what? They just got up the next day, and even though they didn't feel like it, they kept picking up the phone, or they took a step forward, or they sent out that next email. And so it can start with something as simple as that, of just sharing a loss or an area where they weren't super successful.
Wow. Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. Thank you for sharing that. I want to talk about successfully coaching. What inspired you to begin this journey, and why?
I'll go back to my sophomore year in high school. I wanted to, we go talk to the counselor every year, like most of us do. And he says, what do you want to do with your life? Now, Cedric, I knew at an early age, from 5 years old, that I wanted to play basketball. I grew up in a basketball home. Something I did was just embedded in me, hardwired to do it. So I went to this guy and I go, okay, I'm taking a big risk in telling him this about my dream, but I'm going to do it, right? And so I said, I want to be a professional basketball player. And he said this. He said, well, you know what? That's going to be kind of difficult. And you're in a very small town, and you're not that tall, and you're not that fast. And the chances of that happening are this, and maybe we should kind of, get our gaze to a different place. And that just was embedded in me, Cedric, because I thought, this came across my head now years later. I thought, how could that conversation have gone so much differently? What if he would have just said, when I walked in and told him that dream, if he would have said, wow, Clint, that is an amazing dream. God's birthed something in you. We're going to come alongside you. How can we get you the training that you need to make that happen? How can we get you the cognitive skills to make that happen? What type of diet do we need to get you on? Who do we need around you that's going to support you and encourage you in that dream and start pushing you towards that? We here are part of helping you be successful. that didn't happen. And
Mm.
so I see this as I did my journey and ended up playing professional basketball. And in my leadership journey early on, very few leaders are pushing people up. Very
Mm.
few leaders have that security to want the people under them to excel. And so I said, you know what? I gotta write a book. I want leaders to find what I have and to begin to help their staff become all that they can be. Because if somebody would have been around me to help me do that, I would have just excelled even more. And
Yeah.
so I know the power that leadership can have
Yes.
in having people do things that they never thought possible. Because too many times as leaders, we just want people to stay at the same level. We get uncomfortable when they start popping their head up and doing things better than us. And I wanted to help people get to that point where they let them excel.
Wow. That is a knowledge. Wow, this is amazing. There's someone told them that they were unable to do something, and that individual listened. And it created this limited belief within that individual. I want you to help that individual. How were you able to not allow that individual limited beliefs cause you to have limited beliefs?
Yeah, I was fortunate that I did have one of my parents, or both of my parents were very positive. And
Mhm.
my dad, now looking back, I'm a product of the 70s and 80s. He was very big on positive psychology. So, Cedric, I can remember as early as 5 years old, and you're maybe too young, but we used to have these cassette tapes, and he would put them in our room, and they would be this ethereal, like ocean music, but behind it was some positive affirmations that you couldn't hear. It was
Amazing.
just subliminal. But I was fortunate to have that. But I knew deep down that there was something in me that was continuing to drive me towards that I had to keep moving forward towards this dream or this idea that was in me. And I was fortunate to keep moving forward, I would say. And I was fortunate to find people around me that would also support me in the down times where it wasn't going well.
Mm. Mhm. Dr. Clint, I want you to do this. I want you to, first of all, define the limiting beliefs for us. And I want you to talk about what are some common examples that you see people struggle with as far as their limiting beliefs.
A limiting belief is a belief that holds you back
Mhm.
from reaching your full potential. It's a thought pattern, it's a negative thinking, it's self-defeating. It can often arise from past experiences, things that
Mm.
we've heard, things that have been spoken over us. And a lot of times they begin to manifest in different ways, right? Self-doubt, fear of failure, a lack of confidence. And so people begin to experience these a lot of times and they don't even know it. One of the organizations I worked with after playing basketball is
Mhm.
I work for a nonprofit in the city, and we used to have, and I think you have some similar background in this. So we used to provide meals and every day, and we
Mm.
provided an encouraging word before we gave out the meals. And I was leading this area, and we had all kind of things. We had social services, we had food bank, we had recovery groups. And so one day I was
Amazing.
up there sharing to this group of people, and as I was sharing, I noticed this person, and they had a huge gash on their head, just bleeding profusely.
Mm.
And I thought in my head, okay, I can pray for this person. It's not going to help the gash. I can give him food. It's not going to help the gash. I can get him to our social service. It's not going to help. And then right there, it was pressed upon my heart, start a clinic. Now, Cedric, here's where the limiting beliefs began to come in. I heard it clear as day. I just felt the unction to start this clinic.
Mm.
But then the limiting beliefs started to come in, and some of them were true. So, number one is I have no clinical background. That makes no sense. The second one was I have no space. What am I going to do? The third one was I am not a licensed doctor. On and on they began to go.
Oh man.
But then, and here I'm going to give you some tips to help if you are suffering from limiting beliefs. Okay. So one of them is I just began to say, let's just take an action step towards them. So one of the beliefs I had was I don't have any medical experience. Okay. I don't. So I thought, what's an action step? I began to pick up the phone, email doctors in our area or people that I knew, connections of connections. And I asked them, would you volunteer your time 1 hour a month? We're just going to start with something and come in here. Okay. Then I said, okay, I don't have any space. And then I thought, okay, we don't have any space, but I had an office. And I thought, okay, what if I move my office into the basement and I'll just put my desk in the basement and we can use the office as this clinic. So we started with that.
Wow.
And then we just began to chip away one step at a time, one limiting belief at a time, right? And here's some of the things that you need to address when you talk about limiting beliefs. Perfectionism is a limiting belief. Yeah, it wasn't a perfect clinic room. Yeah, it wasn't perfect open 9 to 5. Yeah, all I had to start with was a box of Band-Aids, okay? But you begin to remove those. So perfectionism can do it. Procrastination is another thing that could be a limiting belief. Oh, you know what? We'll just wait until we have everything set up to start this clinic. But you begin to do that. Fear of failure is another limiting belief, right? That can hinder it. Yeah, it could fail. Somebody could get, hurt, but let's start with something. That start 5 years later, and we didn't wait. We were doing the clinic the whole time because you can still see people and help them. It was a fully licensed clinic in the state of California, starting with a box of Band-Aids.
Wow.
And one doctor coming an hour. I'm no longer there, provide dental services, a group, yada, yada, yada. My tip is start with something and begin to move forward on it.
That is a knowledge bomb. Wow. You just a lot of different areas. You just gave us technique. You just gave us strategy. You just gave us different things to do. Because you said something, and Lead to Greatness, I want you to listen to this. He had limited beliefs, but even with his limited beliefs, he reached out and not saying, okay, I had this limiting belief, but you reached out and you got someone else to step in and do what you didn't feel like you were able to do. I mean, you didn't allow the limited beliefs to stop the progress. And I'm like, that is so amazing. Man, this is good. This is good. This is good. My goodness, my goodness. I want you to talk about this because I know even in your experience and seeing this aspect of limiting beliefs with each and every one of us, I want you to talk about the fact of how the limiting beliefs, how does it affect us professionally? How does it affect us in our families? How does it affect us in ministry? How does it affect us as leaders? How does it affect us as communicators, as public speakers? How does this limiting beliefs affect the impact of what we can accomplish if we get it under control?
Yeah, I'll start with the interpersonal, right? You and I have both been married a while. I got 28 years under my belt. I think you have 23 or 25 now.
25,
Yeah, okay, exactly. So, yeah, and for all those that are starting their relationships or wherever you're at on your journey, limiting beliefs a lot of times they show up in low self-esteem as well. When we don't believe that we are worthy of love, when we don't believe that we are worthy of affection, we can tend to avoid intimacy. because once again, that limiting belief can a lot of times show itself up in fear. And so we don't, and we're kind of going back to our initial start of that fear won't allow us to connect with people if they see who we really are as well. I think also unrealistic expectations can be another way that limiting beliefs begins to rear its head in our partners or in our relationships, and even with our team. If we're leading a team, if we have unrealistic expectations of them, the goals that we set are too high, we're expecting perfectionism in our followers, we are going to see we're going to see a detriment to those that are following us. We're going to see a detriment to performance as well. And then a big one as well, there's for leaders that I see a lot of time, is the limiting belief is that leaders have to have all the answers. And so you've probably seen this in your journey as well.
Absolutely.
We've probably run into leaders. They have to have all the answers. And so that's a limiting belief when you think about it, is that, okay, I got to show my team that I have all the answers. Well, that erodes trust. That doesn't allow, as we talked about, your team to excel, to take risk, to try things. And then that begins to hinder their growth, team cohesion. There's so many things. And then let me just touch on one more that I have here, is that also a leader, somebody that always feels that they need to be in control all the time, and that any plan or deviation from their vision or the vision is a sign of weakness. And so if you're a leader and you have that limiting belief that, okay, if I'm not in control constantly and we're not always about my vision, that's going to ultimately create a hierarchical structure. It's going to be rigid, and especially nowadays, you're going to lose talent and decrease performance for sure. And so that's a couple ways that limiting beliefs can hurt our relationships and our organizations.
Oh man, that is a load of knowledge, Bob. This is amazing. This is amazing. We're learning. We're excited. I want you to talk, because I'm looking, and to your left, I see this great book that has the yellow color, and it's a power coaching. I want you to talk about the book. I want you to talk about some of the content in the book, and why should someone read the book, and who is this book for?
Yeah, this book is for leaders. It's for entrepreneurs. And it's also for, I even have a chapter in there that's devoted towards parents as well, those that are raising their kids.
Amazing.
And what it's about, it's really about helping some of the things that we talked about, unleashing the power that's within yourself, removing limiting beliefs, but ultimately using that as you lead to unleash the power that's in your team and really help your organization get to new heights, and using the principles of coaching, and specifically the power coaching methodology, to really watch your organization and your business excel and grow like you never thought possible.
I just purchased this book on Amazon, just purchased the book, and I'm excited and can't wait to read it, because I'm listening, man. You're helping us right now. You're helping us so much. I've been helped just listening to the wealth of knowledge, and it's only so much that we can do in this short period of time. So I say, you know what? I'm going to take it upon myself, and I'm going to purchase this book, because I love the way you think, and I want to get as much as I can get out of it. This is what I want to do. This is what I want to do, because your book is on Amazon. And are you on Audible?
No, not yet. I just contacted my recording guy today, though.
Wow. Okay. So Audible is coming.
It works. It's in the works. Yep.
Awesome. 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 So we're definitely going to be looking for that. And also, you are a coach, and I mean, you're helping people all over the world. You're doing some amazing things. So this is what I want you to do for an entrepreneur and executive, or someone that want to get those blind spots taken care of. If someone wanted to connect with you and what you're doing, where should they go?
They can go to the website, successfullycoaching.com, and they can also on Instagram and Facebook and Twitter as well.
What are some leadership growth tips, tools, advice that you can share with us leaders to help us reach our greatest potential?
I'm going to challenge the leaders out there, and when you're in your one-on-ones or with your team, to simply ask questions, to simply ask open-ended questions to your team and see where that takes you. The second challenge that I want to give you as a leader as well is really examine and saying, how, and this is a little bit radical shift, how am I helping those that are following me? How am I helping them achieve their dreams? Whether that's professional or personal. And I would let you know, do you as a leader know what their dreams are? Do you know what their professional aspirations are? And begin to find out ways that you can help them. If they want to be a better public speaker, find ways to do that. If they want to be the best quant person, how can you give them tasks that enhances that skill set? On and on it goes. If you do that, I believe that your life as a leader will be enriched personally. I think your team will excel, your organization will grow, and people will say, how can I get on that team and be a part of what they're doing, because it's quite different than what we see.
Thank you so much. On behalf of the Lead to Greatness community, I want to thank you so very much for taking time out of your busy schedule and adding value to us all.
Cedric, thank you for having me. It's a pleasure.
So we want to thank you for joining us today on the Lead to Greatness podcast. And if this is your first time, don't forget to subscribe. Hit that like button, hit the notification bell so you won't miss any of these amazing episodes. And if you're on iTunes, go ahead and rate the podcast and leave a review. That helps get the word out to great leaders and entrepreneurs like yourself. So we want to thank you for joining us today. So remember, if you help others reach their greatest potential, together we can change the world. Peace.